of St. Mary's, Georgia City Council meeting for October 5th, 2020. Welcome everyone, all our citizens online and our council members and staff, and I appreciate your attendance. So, Madam Clerk, excuse me, I'm calling this meeting to order, and the first item of business is now the invocation by Councilmember Jim Gant, and I'm going to have to. All right, I'm going to ask everyone if they could to mute their phones, please, for feedback. I think that's, no. All right, we still have, I think, a few on. All right, let's try that again. Mr. Gant, for your invocation.
Yes, please join me in prayer. God, we thank you for another day in your world, and what a beautiful and diverse world you have created. We especially thank you for this magnificent United States of America, home of the free and the brave. Help us in St. Mary's and as one nation to come together, listen with open minds, be careful not to disparage one's intentions or character just because someone differs from your opinion. Help us always to remain civil, respectful, and ensure the presentation of facts, not rumors or attacks in our discussions and disagreements. This is especially true during this very political time in our nation. As we face an unprecedented challenge with the COVID-19 virus, let us listen to and follow the recommendations and standards of our leaders and experts as we confront this terrible virus and threat to our nation. We pray for all those who have been infected, and especially for those we have lost to this dreadful disease. Again, we honor our first responders that work so tirelessly for each of us to keep us safe. During this virus pandemic, we also give special honor and prayer for all the medical and related service heroes. Also, we honor the men and women all over the world who serve in our military. Please keep them safe from harm, and always know how much we appreciate their sacrifice and patriotism. Lastly, please bless the citizens of St. Mary's and the City Council, giving us wisdom to accomplish what is best for all our citizens tonight and always as we serve on this City Council. Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Gant. That was just very moving, and thank you. I appreciate it. And with that, if you wouldn't mind, do the Pledge of Allegiance for us.
I'd be honored. I'd be honored. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, sir, for doing double duty. Appreciate it. Madam Clerk, if we could have the roll call for our council members, please.
Yes, sir. Councilmember Jones, post 1.
I'm here.
Councilmember Goodman, post 2.
Present.
Councilmember Gant, post 3.
Present.
Councilmember Riley, post 4.
Present.
Councilmember Rassi, post 5.
Present.
Councilmember Williams, post 6.
Present.
Mayor Morrissey.
Excellent. Thank you very much, council members. Madam Clerk, that's unanimous. And for sake of clarity, we have on the line our attorney, Ms. Stephen Blackerby, Deborah Walker-Reed, our city clerk, Mr. Bobby Marr, Director of Public Works. We have our city manager, Rob Horton, Jennifer Brown, our finance director, and is Kenneth, are you online?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and we have Kenneth Hughes, our community development director. Thank you very much, folks, for being here tonight. And I think I have all the staff. If I've left out someone, please speak up. Okay, thank you. So we have approval of one set of minutes from September 21st, 2020, public hearing and regular city council meeting minutes. Could I have a motion, please, for approval?
So moved. Alan Rashi.
Yes, sir. Thank you. And I have a second.
Second, Artie Jones.
Yes, sir. Mr. Jones. All right. Madam Clerk, could I have, can you run the roster for me, please?
Yes, sir. Councilmember Jones, post 1.
Yay.
Councilmember Goodman, post 2.
Yay.
Councilmember Gant, post 3.
Yay.
Councilmember Riley, post 4.
Yay.
Councilmember Rassi, post 5.
Yay.
Councilmember Williams, post 6.
Yay.
Mayor Morrissey.
All right, Madam Clerk, please record that as unanimous. And thank you very much, Council. And we're going to start out with presentations, and it is not on the agenda, but Mr. Horton, I think you asked to speak for a short period here.
If it's okay with you, Mr. Mayor, I'll cover it during the manager's report.
That would be fine then. Thank you very much. All right, so we have board announcements for vacancies on historic preservation and on Oak Grove Cemetery Authority and then Orange Hall. And I do believe have one application for the Orange Hall Management Committee, and it's a seat. And given the way this is structured, this person would have to be appointed as the vice president of this Orange Hall committee. So I open this up to the floor for council discussion.
Mr. Mayor, I'm the council representative to the Orange Hall Committee, and
Yes, ma'am.
I hesitate to appoint this particular individual, not for any personal reasons, but just because of the structure that we've got going right now. I think we need to revisit our bylaws and try to reorganize so that council doesn't have to fill an officer position. Council can just name someone to the committee, and then the committee itself can reorganize and reshuffle to have people fill the various roles. Since the Orange Hall Committee is not meeting right now, I don't think it would hurt to wait a little while and see if we can get this accomplished before we appoint again. And
Right.
I do think that the individual may have also applied for historic preservation, and that might be a more appropriate role to appoint for, rather than the Orange Hall Committee that needs some administrative refiguring on the appointments.
Right. And I do see that she did apply for I think, did you say historic preservation?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Well, and given the breadth of the application here, I guess I need some council's guidance as to how you'd like to approach this. Because I think your admonitions relative to Orange Hall make a lot of sense, given the position, and I do think in any of the others that it does exactly as you say. It appoints to the committee or the board, and then the position on the board is determined by the board members. So that makes a lot of sense.
Councilmember Williams put that in the form of a motion and have a second, and we proceed from there.
Thank you, sir.
I was thinking the same thing, follow Lyndon's recommendation.
Go ahead, Linda.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we take a short time before we fill this Orange Hall Committee appointment and reorganize the structure of the bylaws so that council can just appoint a person to the committee rather than appoint a person to an office in the committee.
All right, and can I have a second?
Second, Riley.
Yes, sir, Mr. Riley. Any further discussion? All right, Madam Clerk, would you run the roster for us?
Yes, sir. Councilmember Jones, post 1.
Yay.
Councilmember Goodman, post 2.
Yay.
Councilmember Gant, post 3.
Yay.
Councilman Riley, post 4.
Yay.
Councilman Rassi, post 5.
Yay.
Councilman Williams, post 6.
Yay.
Mayor Morrissey.
Madam Clerk, you'll record that as unanimous. And thank you very much for some good approach. And Ms. Williams, we'll wait for your report back in the coming months. Thank you. All right, and now we drop down to a report of authorities, boards, and commissions. And I think our finance director is here, Jennifer Brown. Jennifer?
Yes, sir. You have your August, which is the second month of our fiscal year. Just want to know if y'all had any questions on it.
Okay. Well, this is typically about the low point we get before the beginning of the infusion of tax revenue.
Yes, September usually it's kind of a down month, but October is when we start seeing our insurance premium tax. We did get our numbers for digest. We are in the middle of balancing the taxes, and we hope to have them out no later than Monday, the tax bills. So then we'll start collecting that revenue.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. All right. Anyone else got some questions for Ms. Brown? Okay. Thank you. We look forward to the beginning of the revenue and also the fee that will come in from the different corporations. So appreciate that, and we'll look forward to the next report. Jennifer, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So council, we move now to setting the consent agenda. Excuse me. We have no old business, and so we have a number of items here. But the first is BTK Innovations' body temperature kiosks for city buildings.
I have a question about that.
Yes, sir. Okay. The item B is the city closing certificate for the Camden County Joint Development Authority, the taxable industrial development revenue bond for Cumberland Inlet.
Consent.
COVID-19 facility safety improvements, air purifiers.
Consent.
Consent.
Professional service agreements for a winding road multi-use trail.
Consent.
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 Georgia Department of Transportation Local Maintenance Improvement Grant, alias LMIG.
Consent.
Consent.
Program for Public Information report for credit. This is a community rating system regarding flood insurance.
Consent.
Consent.
Rezoning request for St. Mary's Boat Services. I think we want to discuss that. We have some, I think citizens are interested in that also. The rezoning request for 4360 Georgia Highway 40 from R1 to C2.
Consent. Consent.
Subdivision request for a portion of land between Dark Entry Creek and Sand Hill Road.
Consent.
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 Thank you. All right, now item J is a reverse subdivision request for land northeast of intersection of Doubloon Court and South Point Boulevard.
Consent.
Consent.
Item K is Riverview Hotel encroachment agreement.
Consent.
Consent. Consent.
Sidewalk Cafe, new ordinance, chapter 82.
I'd like to discuss
I think we
that,
should
Mayor.
discuss it.
All right. Urban redevelopment plan resolution. I'm sorry, this is item M, urban redevelopment plan resolution.
Probably discuss it so the lawyer could say a few words.
Discuss.
Okay. All right, and then the last is item N, mobile sales ordinance agreement.
Consent.
All right, thank you. So, council, if you will just check me to make sure we have this correct. The consent agenda is going to consist of new business, item B, C, D, E, F, H, I, J, K, and N. If you're in agreement, could I have a motion?
Mr. Mayor, this is Riley. Make a motion, we accept the consent agenda as read.
All right,
Second.
and I have a second from Ms. Williams. Thank you. Madam Clerk, if you'll read the roster.
Yes, sir. Councilmember Jones, post 1.
Yay.
Councilmember Goodman, post 2.
Yay.
Councilmember Gant, post 3.
Yay.
Councilmember Riley, post 4.
Yay.
Councilmember Rassi, post 5.
Yay.
Councilmember Williams, post 6.
Yay.
Mayor Morrissey.
All right, Madam Clerk, will you record that as unanimous, please? Thank you, Council.
Yes, sir.
All right, and so Council, based on that, we have the need for the approval of the agenda, so I'll need a motion for that.
So
Mr.
moved,
Mayor, make
Mr.
a
Mayor.
motion that we approve the agenda, items A, G, L, and M.
Say that again, letters, because normally we don't need to, we don't need to call out the letters, Mr. Riley, but if you'd like to, then I just need to have them respoken.
Mayor Morrissey.
Well, I make a motion that we approve the agenda of the remaining items that went on the consent agenda. Is that good?
All right. Yes, sir. Can I have the second?
Second.
Say it again. Ms. Williams?
I was going to let Mr. Gant say.
Oh, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear. All right. Is that Mr. Gant?
It's Mr. Gant.
All right, thank you. All right. Madam Clerk, will you run the roster, please?
Yes, sir. Councilmember Jones, post 1.
Yay.
Councilmember Goodman, post 2.
Yay.
Councilmember Gant, post 3.
Yay.
Councilmember Riley, post 4.
Yay.
Councilmember Rassi, post 5.
Yay.
Councilmember Williams, post 6.
Yay.
Mayor Morrissey.
All right, Madam Clerk, if you'll record that as unanimous. Thank you very much again, Council. All right, and for our citizens on board, we're going to move down to granting audience to the public relative to the items on the agenda, and would ask if you give your name and address and respect the 5-minute time limit. And I believe, Madam Clerk, we have three citizens that would like to speak. Do you have an order for this, Madam Clerk?
Yes, sir. Mr. Rocky Smith is first, if he's on the line.
Okay, Mr. Smith, welcome.
Hello?
Yes, Mr. Smith, welcome.
Yes, thank you. I hear that there is some issue with a fence on the north end of the property. Some of the neighbors on Wright Street would like a 8-foot fence put in place. I hear that there is some issue with a fence on.
Okay, Mr. Smith, you may have moved away from the phone. If you can get closer to the phone again, please.
Yes, there is an issue with a fence.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
At the north end of the property. I'm under the impression that the neighbors would like an 8-foot fence instead of a 6-foot fence.
Okay, Mr. Smith, this granting audience to the public is rhetorical for the public to speak what their needs are. We don't have any back and forth discussion.
Okay, what would you like me to say then?
Well, we can speak to the need for the fence when the item comes up during the agenda items, and I think you're also scheduled to speak afterwards too.
Okay.
All right. Anything else?
No, Judge, I'm just requesting to have the property rezoned from R1 to C2.
Yes, sir. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. And Madam Clerk, the next person?
Yes, sir. We have Mr. Rob Whitley on the line.
Yes, sir. Mr. Whitley, are you there?
Yes, sir. Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Whitley?
All right. And Madam Clerk, the next person?
Mr. Whitley? Okay, Madam Clerk, there's
yes, sir,
feedback we can hear.
Mr. Whitley?
Mr. Whitley,
Yes,
was
sir.
that you, sir?
Yes, that was Mr. Whitley. I am here.
Okay. All right. For anybody else who's not speaking, would you please mute your phones? We get reverb. Thank you, sir. Go ahead.
Okay. Some of my interests are involving the entire neighborhood. Some of the folks who don't realize some of the things that are at risk within the conversion of properties. Just to point just a little bit that Rocky Smith has had a tremendous disregard for the law regarding for state, county, city, the DNR, and the EPD regarding drainage, the ditch, and spillage on the ground. Some of the stories include that the Rocky Smith has put a lot of clutter from this boat services yard over into the R1 properties just to make it look more unsightly and less valuable to the customer, the person that was needing to sell the property for Rocky to have contiguous property. He put a lot of clutter over there, and then later on, Jim Sampson from Code Enforcement instructed him to move it, but it never got moved, and that mess is still there. Rocky Smith disregarded 2 different cease and desist orders from the planning committee while he had started improvements on the R1 property. He finally honored the 3rd cease and desist whenever Jim Sampson actually put signs on the driveways that said no work or you're forced to stop at the risk of being arrested. The cease and desist order helped table Rocky Smith's zone request for the past 4 months. So many different violations were found upon that cease and desist. at least one of his contractors tried to continue working on the new R1 property and almost got arrested because of it. The next component is to recognize that there's a fire hazard out there. The close proximity to the boats, if there's ever a fiberglass boat fire, it will sweep through like a raging forest is in California. But anyway, we'll come back to that. The cease and desist issues were running amok. Rocky told me of them personally. The time that the 3 different times that I'm aware of, including the very last one that stopped him completely. Some of the violations included doing underground electrical work without a permit and not inspected. The Planning Commission looked around and noticed that Rocky Smith never even filed for septic tank permits for some of the bath houses on the other property, the original property. He had installed, but the bigger things, DNR related, Rocky Smith installed a 36-inch diameter pipe and filled in the DNR creek or ditch, whatever you want to call it, without a permit or discussion of the floodplain and the marine disruptions. He also found that when the DNR did a survey around the edges of the property, he had encroached into marshlands too closely. The minimum distance for anything.
Yes, sir. Hello? Deborah?
Yes, sir.
All right. Mr. Whitley? Mr. Whitley? You may have hit your mute button, Mr. Whitley. Can you try and hit it and look and see if it's on? All right. Madam Clerk, if Mr. Whitley comes back on, we'll put him behind Mr. Russell and let him come back on. Okay?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. Is Mr. Russell available?
Yes,
Mr.
thank
Dick
you,
Russell?
Mr. Mayor.
Hi,
Yeah, you hearing
Mr.
me
Russell.
okay?
If you could give your name and address, please, for the
Yeah,
record.
93 Wright Street in St. Mary's. Hope you'll forgive me. I'm trying to get used to a set of hearing aids that link directly into my phone. It's kind of nice when it works. Thank you and thank the council. And I'm certainly glad to see that you're all well at this time. Of course, my property backs up to the property that Mr. Smith is hoping to rezone. And I want to make it perfectly clear that I had no knowledge of any of the situations that were discussed by the previous caller. We really, and incidentally, I hope you all got my letter that I sent to you today, one way or the other. That letter was from me and from 2 of my neighbors. We are the active people. The only other people on the road, on the street here, are physically unable to participate in this, so we chose not to bother them with it. But it is our agreed upon opinion. As I have said, that we have no problem with Mr. Smith. In fact, I at least believe that the boatyard would be a very good use of the property. However, as I said in my letter, we have a concern that any commercial development of the property could significantly reduce the resale value of our property. It would destroy a small active wildlife habitat. There may be no escaping this. I'll have to look for my turkeys and deer that come out of there some other place. But we are really concerned that removing any natural buffer zone between our property and the boatyard could increase the dirt and noise pollution down here. Have to understand, please, that we live on a dead-end street. There's so little traffic on this street that if you sleep with your windows open at night and a car drives by, you will wake up and look out to see who the heck it is, because we are that isolated. We live here because we like it, and we'd like to keep it that way. We know that Mr. Green has agreed to a undisturbed green zone that's 50 feet wide. In my opinion, you could make it 200 feet wide, but reality is that Mr. Smith has to use his land. So we only request that Mr. Smith agree to put up an 8-foot-high solid fence along the entire length of that green zone. No fence has yet been agreed to, but we'd like to see that agreement, and we'd like to see it enforceable. An 8-foot-high solid fence, probably wood, is no different than any builder or developer puts around their development. And we think that is a minimum request. We think that will add to our privacy. It'll keep people from going into the green space. It'll keep people from throwing their trash and paint cans and whatever. And believe me, that place can generate trash into the green zone. And just, we feel that's a compromise. If Mr. Smith does that, I'm all in favor of him going ahead. One further thing before I sign off, that during the last Planning Commission hearing, Mr. Wiley King, made the motion to accept the application to recommend to you for passage if the green zone was made permanent. I know this is a legal issue. If the green zone were to be sold, the lot were to be sold, I have been told that it would be difficult to make this green zone a restriction that went with the lot. However, that was the motion that was passed by the Planning Commission. So I would ask, how does the Planning Commission intend to enforce this motion to make sure that that green strip remains permanent even if the lot is sold? And I would cut it short now and let you get on with the meeting, and I thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you. Thanks, sir. Mr. Russell. It's indeed good to hear from you again. It's been a while. All right.
Yeah, we've been hiding out here, sir.
As many have. Madam Clerk, have we got Mr. Whitley back?
Mr. Whitley, are you on the line, sir? He's stating that he's having some trouble getting back in.
All right. Well, let him know that we will. Let's see. He's going to be has the option after at second granting audience to the public, and hopefully it'll be ready by then. But we need to proceed. Is he able to fix it or not? Because we need to proceed.
He is. Yes, sir. Mr. Whitley, are you on the line, sir? He sent me a text. He's trying to get back in.
Is he trying to call in?
Yes, sir. He's trying to with the access code. He said he's having trouble getting back in.
All right. We'll wait a couple of minutes here. Thank you for your patience, counsel. Hello?
Yes, hi, this is, I'm trying to be in on the city council.
I'm looking for Mr. Whitley. Whitley?
Yes, this is he. This is he, and my code is being rejected.
All right, sir. If you could, you had some points to make it, and you had started, but if you would, if you can make your points for council, please.
Make my points now?
Yeah. All right. Yes. Go ahead and speak.
I heard him say on the YouTube that they were going to put me in on the public conference too. second part?
No, sir, this is all just a phone conference, this council meeting. And,
I agree.
well,
However,
all right, Madam Clerk, you want to describe how this works as far as access for people?
Yes, sir. Mr. Whitley, if the YouTube is not where you would speak to City Council, it would be regarding on the telephone call itself. The YouTube link is only for people that want to listen. You would actually, the telephone call you're on right now is how you would address City Council as you were before.
Okay.
So City Council is stating you can go ahead and address them.
My code is not letting me back in unless I'm in now.
No. Mr. Whitley, you're in the council meeting, Mr. Whitley. So go ahead. You want to finish your statement?
If that's what you wish. I'm sorry for the interruption.
No, that's all right. You dropped off, and we wanted to make sure you were able to conclude your statement.
Yes, sir. And I should continue right now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, the point I was making is that Rocky Smith put a lot of debris, property, clutter over there to get the intervening piece of property owner to sell, to start to believe that his property value would diminish, and that was just a fool's ploy. It just didn't work. It wasn't the right thing to do, and that's when he was confronted by Jim Sampson and told that he should clean that up. Later on, there was 2 more cease and desist orders, one of which he got by email, and he shared that with me, that not the email, but the verbiage of it. And then finally, he still didn't stop. He continued working in the background in the woods, backwoods, closer to the marsh, away from the street. Then he finally, just before, and during that time frame is when he built the ditch, put the culvert in the ditch, 36-inch pipe, and without permits or any discussion with anyone. So somewhere in there, just before he went to the last planning and zoning meeting on June 16th, I believe it was, that's when they put signs up that said cease and desist and do not work, do not do anything further. At that point, I had personally had my items stored on the property. I had some trailers with Rocky Smith's permission and paying him storage monies. And I saw the signs, and I chose to call the city and spoke to Jim Sampson, and he told me nothing in that property should cross that bridge that Rocky built unless it was leaving. Nothing else could come in. It had to be leaving. So that meant that I had to post haste, get my stuff together, and pack it out of there. So that's what I did. And over the time, I was told by also Jim Sampson that all of that property had to be made back to R1 compliance. That never happened. The additional approximately 20 boats that were stored on the new property never left the property. They're still there. I think a couple of them came and went, but the approximately 20 boats are still there, best I can tell. So he just did not honor anything the Planning Commission had to do regarding wait for your permits, wait for your approval to C2. Do not do anything until you get your C2. He just went ahead. So he's disregard. That's where I'm going with that. So he encroached on the marshlands too closely. He had to move many boats and many and my stuff, which was accidentally within 25 feet of the marsh. So I moved my stuff immediately.
Okay, Mr. Whitley, we are going to ask you if you could wrap up for us, please. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The bigger thing is the hazard to the neighborhood regarding the fire. I don't know if any of you heard about the A boat that caught on fire in the St. Mary's River this spring, but it was a pretty big sailboat, 40, 50 feet, and it caught on fire in the middle of the night, and the people barely got off in their dinghy, and they lost everything. and all that anyone could do was, the fire department was to spray water on it. They sprayed it until it burned to the water line and it sank. That's the typical thing. They couldn't even put the fire out. And if this boatyard was to ever catch on fire, right now it's 100 boats that might catch on fire or more. But once he expands to 3 times more, the risk could be even more for the public, and the fire department may not be able to put it out. And treetop to treetop, it'll go across the street to all of New Point Peter.
All right, then thank you, sir, very much for your input. Now, we will have granting audience to the public after our review of the line items. So I think you're scheduled to speak then also. And thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right.
Sorry for the inconvenience.
You're welcome. All right. Madam Clerk, that's the last of the speakers, correct?
That's correct, sir.
All right, good. All right, Council, the first item under new business today is all right, we need everyone to mute their phones, please. Thank you. BTK Innovations is body temperature kiosk. So Mr. Gant, you had a question.
Yes, I just had a brief question as far as funding. It doesn't indicate the funding source for the $16,648, but should that be under the CARES Act also, just like the air purifiers, item C on the agenda? So it shouldn't come out of the general fund, should it?
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yes, sir, please.
Mr. Gant, you are absolutely correct, and thank you for pointing that out. It is being funded through the CARES Act.
That's all I had. That's fine. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, anyone else? Okay. Very innovative product, Mr. Horton. All right, if no further questions, could I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Alan Ransky.
Mr. Rassi.
Riley.
Oh, okay, hold on. I have a motion from Mr. Rassi, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, can I have a second?
Second, Gant.
All right, Mr. Gant. Now, Madam Clerk, will you run the roster?
Yes, sir. Councilmember Jones, post 1.
Yay.
Councilmember Goodman, post 2.
Yay.
Councilmember Gant, post 3.
Yay.
Councilman Riley, post 4.
Yay.
Councilman Rassi, post 5.
Yay.
Councilman Williams, post 6.
Yay.
Mayor Morrissey.
Madam Clerk, you want to record that as unanimous. And thank you very much,
yes,
Council. Great improvement for health and safety for the city. All right, our next item, if I've got it correct, is item G, the rezoning request for the St. Mary's Boat Services from R1 to C2. And I think we'll open this up for discussion, but Mr. Hughes, are you on?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Can you just review for council the approval meeting that occurred at the Planning Commission for this item? Is there anything in particular relative to that that is pertinent? And you're available as the subject matter expert based on council questions afterwards here.
Yes, sir. Mr. Smith has requested to rezone these 4 properties from R1 to C2 in order to expand St. Mary's Boat Services, which will take place over a couple of years, as Mr. Smith indicated to Planning Commission. The land to the very north there used to be home to a trailer park that's no longer there. The Planning Commission, based off of a meeting that had previously taken place back in the summer, Mr. Smith had offered a 50-foot vegetative buffer that was requested by the neighbors at that time. So when it came back to Planning Commission, he offered that as part of the application, and it was staff's recommendation to approve that with that condition, which is ultimately what Planning Commission decided to go forward with. The couple of caveats that, or a couple of things to highlight there is that if this becomes part of the actual, approval, there will be an ordinance drafted and signed that says exactly what y'all approve, and then we would record an instrument against the deed of the property so that it's transferable to future property owners as part of the condition to approval for this rezoning. So we would have recourse through the zoning ordinance to enforce any conditions.
All right.
The interest in a fence was brought up rather late about, at our last meeting. It's staff opinion that it should not be part of the conditions of approval because at a certain point, Mr. Smith will have to put in a security fence regardless in order to protect the assets which he plans on storing. And we believe, staff opinion that the 50-foot buffer is adequate to remedy the externalities that this may cause to the neighbors on Wright Street.
Okay. All right. So we have teed up Mr. Kenneth Hughes and Mr. Stephen Blackerby and Mr. Robbie Horton if there are any questions, Council. And so I want to open this up to the floor. Whoever would like to go first relative to Q&A on this.
This is Riley. The only question I would have is with respect to the 50-foot buffer. If Mr. Smith's intention is to make that permanent, would it not be a simply matter to rezone that 50-foot conservation area? That's questions for Mr. Hughes.
While that's an option, Mr. Riley, I would sort of shy away from something like that just because the rezoning could be done at a future date without the full knowledge of the history on this. When you set it aside in this kind of manner, it gets tied to the deed. And so for it to come out of it, it would go back through City Council, much in the same way that a rezoning would. But the benefit here is that you would find the history that's attached to kind of this rezoning.
Yeah, I understand, but just for clarification, for my purposes, I thought once designated a conservation area, that was a permanent redesignation and couldn't be changed after that. Am I wrong? Okay. Which I know it could be. I'm not an expert in zoning.
Well, I'll let your words stand for that, Mr. Riley. Generally, the application of law is that City Council can undo what City Council does. So, if you rezone something for an amusement park, you always have the option of going back to say, no, that's not really what we need because the conditions change.
Okay, understand. Thank you.
Okay, who's next?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm concerned about two things, actually. I'm concerned about the allegations that Mr. Whitley made and whether those should be of any concern to us here tonight. And I'm also concerned about the fence issue. I read Mr. Russell's letter rather late this afternoon and did not have time to explore the issue with the Mr. Hughes or Mr. Horton. So I don't really know where we stand on the fence issue. Those are the two questions and concerns that I have, and I guess maybe Mr. Blackaby could speak to the concern about the allegations that Mr. Whitley made and whether we should be worried about those or not.
Mr. Mayor, this is Stephen. Can I interject?
Yes, sir. Please interject here.
Certainly. The zoning ordinance lists a total of 10 zoning amendment criteria. These are the criteria that are to be used by council when determining whether rezoning is appropriate. And I don't believe that a past violation, a past ordinance violation, or a past allegation of criminal conduct is the type of thing that falls within any of the rezoning criteria. The rezoning criteria are really focusing exclusively on the property itself and the use of the property, and those criteria don't really take into account the past conduct of the applicant. I mean, as I read them, you sort of would treat you would almost be blind as to who the applicant is, and you're looking solely at where is this property, what are the surrounding properties, and how is it intended to be used. So I don't know that it would be appropriate to rely on information about any type of past violations as a grounds for approving or denying an application to rezone. Having said that, again, there are 10 criteria listed, and if council would like additional time to review those criteria and or to get opinions from myself or Kenneth as to how they may apply here, there's nothing to stop council. And I'll let Kenneth say otherwise if I'm wrong. I don't think there's anything in the ordinance that requires a decision on this right now. I think there is an option to table this and give council more time to review those zoning amendment criteria.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, excellent point. And so, council, I mean, what's your feeling on what's been proposed? Anyone want to speak? Council?
Yeah, I'm Alan Ramsey. I'd like to speak.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
I would, Rocky Smith's been a great asset to our community, and I just, I understand the concerns, and I do want to, yes? I would.
Ladies and gentlemen, please mute your phones. Alan?
Okay, can I proceed?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Rocky Smith's been a phenomenal asset to our community over the years. He's done an incredible job in our community, and I understand the concerns that this one particular individual has. But you know, I'm fine with tabling it, but I really believe wholeheartedly that Rocky has the best interest of St. Mary's at heart, and I fully support Rocky in this effort.
Mr. Mayor, this is Dave.
Yeah.
My comment on that is that the neighbors to the north, the most affected, have accepted the fact that this expansion of that property is a good thing for the city and a good thing for the community out in Point Peters. So, you know, I like Alan would be okay with tabling, but think we should move forward and give our votes this evening.
Okay, who's next? Anyone else?
Well, I'd like to chime in.
Yes, sir?
I'd like to chime in and just say that I support the Planning Commission on this. I think a 50-foot buffer.
This is Rob Whitley. Is my turn to continue?
Anyone else?
Yes. This is Rob Whitley.
Yes, sir. All right, excuse me, Mr. Whitley. Yeah. All right, Mr. Gant.
This is Rob Whitley.
Mr. Gant? Mr. Gant,
Yes.
Can you hear me? Okay, I need everyone. All right, everyone that is else, please mute your phones. And for our guests, citizens, the only time we will reach back out to you during granting audience to the public. So, Mr. Gann, I think you may have to start over again.
Okay, I was just saying that after listening to all the parties involved, I think the problems that were brought up with the property is not part of this particular discussion. We're trying to rezone a particular area, and that is not appropriate to consider. It certainly is a concern, and it needs to be addressed, but not tonight. 50 foot of a buffer sounds like a reasonable separation, a buffer, and that's what the Planning Commission recommended. I think we should go with the Planning Commission and pass this rezoning with the 50-foot buffer tied to the title of the land.
So, all right, anyone else? All right, Mr. Blackerby.
Yes, ma'am.
So you heard Mr. Gant talking about the 50-foot buffer tied to the property, as was, I think, shared in one of the conversations here. So what I'm wondering is if you would craft a motion. Obviously, it sounds like council is accepting this proposal with the caveat that the 50-foot buffer be permanent even during title transfer. Did I hear that right? Mr. Gant?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so is the motion as simple as that, Mr. Blackerby?
Yeah, I think that would suffice. I think it's going to be permanent, regardless. Under the zoning ordinances, they provide that if you rezone subject to certain conditions, those conditions can be enforced as violations of the zoning ordinance itself. So, as I read that, it's going to be automatic anyway. And I think Kenneth did a good job of explaining how we would go about getting that filed appropriately, so that property owners are on notice of it.
All right, so I'm going to ask you to go to work, and would you please frame the motion with that, and then I'll ask one of the council people to issue the motion.
I think I would just phrase it as a motion to approve the rezoning subject to the 50-foot buffer requirement as recommended by the Planning Commission?
Yes. All right, can I have a motion?
So moved.
Riley.
All right, so I have a motion from Mr. Jones, correct, Mr. Jones?
I think that was Mr. Riley.
Oh, all right, it sounded like you, Mr. Jones, I'm sorry. All right, so Mr. Riley made the motion, correct?
Correct.
All right, can I have a second then?
I'll second the motion, Gant.
Mr. Gant, all right, Ms. Walker-Reed, can you run the roster for us?
Yes, sir. Councilmember Jones, post 1.
Yay.
Councilmember Goodman, post 2.
Yay.
Councilmember Gant, post 3.
Yay.
Councilmember Riley, post 4.
Yay.
Councilmember Rassi, post 5.
Yay.
Councilmember Williams, post 6.
Yay.
Mayor Morrissey.
Madam Clerk, if you'll record that as unanimous, thank you, Council, and Mr. Hughes and Mr. Blackerby for making sure we're following proper procedure. Appreciate that. Okay, now, if I am correct, the next item is item L, Sidewalk Cafe, New Ordinance, Chapter 82, and I do not recall who asked to speak about this.
Yeah, I did. This is Riley.
Yes, sir.
Can you hear me, Mr. Mayor? Hello?
We can hear you, Dave.
Okay, thank you. The reason I wanted to speak on this is I think this is a terrific ordinance and exactly what we had planned on when we had gone through all the discussions and what the people had asked for during the RSVP and master plan. However, I do not agree with that $100 fee for the license to have that. I really think that that's an affront to the people that have the restaurants and places down in the waterfront, and I'd like to amend or make a motion that we approve it without that fee structure for the permit. That's
yes,
my comment.
Second that motion.
Goodman. Right, so yes, Mr. Riley made a motion and Mr. Goodman seconded it. Now we're in conversation. Anybody like to speak about this? Any detail?
I agree with not having. I'm sorry. I'll defer to whomever tried to speak.
Mr. Goodman.
Okay, I agree with Mr. Riley's assessment. That was never discussed, according to the information I have from the beginnings of those discussions about the concept of a sidewalk seating arrangement. I certainly think with everything that's happened to the downtown merchants, this is an additional burden that the city can well afford not to extract upon them. We need to continue to try to do everything we can to help them bounce back and, as a popular phrase goes, to bounce forward, in fact. So thank you for praising that, Mr. Riley. I'm pleased to make the second. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Anyone else?
Mayor, this is Kenneth Hughes. I've just quick comment if I could. I apologize. My top sheet says $100 per year. That's a mistake. The ordinance as written, which is a $100 application fee as the initial. But if it's the will of the council to remove it wholly, by all means, we can do that. I apologize for the mistake on the top sheet.
All right. I think that's the intent, Mr. Goodman, correct? The total elimination.
That would be correct. Yes, I think Mr. Riley should make that.
Okay. Mr. Riley, just want to make sure.
Yeah, that's correct. And there should be no fee associated for the downtown restaurants that are going to take advantage of that potential that we've created it's been created down there for them. So,
okay.
Yes.
Anyone else? All right. I just like to make. Sorry.
No, I
Mr.
support
Rassi?
Dave Riley and Goodman. So
okay.
That's great.
All right. All right. Well, this is the mayor. I just like to speak to the fact that it's very exciting. I think adding a new feature to our downtown is something that I think our visitors, our citizens, the tourists are really going to enjoy, and I for one can't wait to see it. So, all right. If we're ready for a vote, Council, Madam Clerk, would you run the roster?
Yes, sir. Councilmember Jones, post 1.
Yay.
Councilmember Goodman, post 2.
Yay.
Councilmember Gant, post 3.
Yay.
Councilman Riley, post 4.
Yay.
Councilman Rassi, post 5.
Yay.
Councilman Williams, post 6.
Yay.
Mayor Morrissey.
Madam Clerk, with you, record that as unanimous, and thank you very much, Council. Excellent. And to our merchants and our restaurateurs and our hoteliers out there, thank you for very creative thinking. we look forward to seeing the finished product. Excuse me. All right, the next one is item AM, the Urban Redevelopment Plan Resolution, and I don't know who asked for this to be spoken.
Mr. Mayor, that was me, I believe, again, and the only reason I did that so is that we could give an opportunity for Mr. Hughes or Mr. Horton and our attorney, Mr. Blackerby, to speak to the details so that the public that was not on the earlier public hearing, which it seemed like there was only a few people, would understand what this urban development plan means to them. I support it.
All right. Mr. Horton,
Mr. Mayor, Goodman has a comment.
A quick frame.
Goodman would like to speak.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Goodman. My apologies. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. Mr. Mark Phelps made a very, very good presentation, I thought, tonight, and perhaps you didn't get the benefit of a PowerPoint that he had sent to me. I can't encapsulate all of it, but I will say this, that there was some discussion during his question in the public input session about not having this particular resolution evolve, develop, or otherwise morph into a process or a tool whereby private property owners could face eminent domain or any other type of action for the sake of obtaining properties contiguous to other developments or for whatever purpose under the sun to use it to that end. Mr. Blackerby was not on the call at that point. He did not hear the commitment made, as I heard it, that this would be something that would be considered at the time we voted tonight. And I would like to make sure that we have the following phraseology incorporated into whatever motion comes forward, and that is approval subject to the restrictions and caveats regarding the use of this device in future acquisitions to condemn by eminent domain or any other form of enforced adherence for the purpose of transfer to real estate development entities. That's all I really wanted to put in, but it's a very important put in. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, Mr. Goodman, we may need some interchange with you and Mr. Blackerby. Mr. Blackerby, you were not on the first part of the call, and there was some concern about how that portion of the urban redevelopment tool could be used. And can you speak to it in general, and then maybe specifically to what Mr. Goodman's proposing, or are safeguards embedded in what we're doing that do what Mr. Goodman would like?
I'll certainly try to address it. This is always a complicated issue when you get into eminent domain. Let me say first that there are certain restrictions in place on any use of eminent domain, whether it's under the development law or otherwise. So the cities are subject to certain eminent domain can be used legally, and under the Georgia State Constitution, it can be used to condemn what is defined as blighted property for economic redevelopment. And for it to be blighted, I mean, essentially got to be abandoned, unsafe, unusable for whatever its intended purpose should be. You wouldn't go condemn someone's home that they're living in and take it to sell to the developer. So there are certain restrictions already in place. I can understand the concern, is particularly if you look at the urban redevelopment statutes. There's talk in those statutes about the ability to use eminent domain for redevelopment purposes, but again, all of that is still subject to the more general state requirements for using eminent domain, and it's pretty limited to situations in which you can use it. The reason that that language is in urban redevelopment statutes concerning eminent domain is that typically, or I wouldn't say typically, but when the drafters of the urban redevelopment statutes drafted those statutes, they seem to be doing it with the idea that local governments, cities and counties, would create separate agencies, separate urban redevelopment agencies, and that those agencies would then have the power of eminent domain just like the local government does. In this situation, my understanding is that you all are going to retain those urban redevelopment powers yourselves rather than create a separate agency that would have those powers. So the concern about eminent domain, I think, is somewhat mollified by that fact, the fact that the city council itself will always remain, at least for the time being, as it's currently envisioned, the entity that's in the driver's seat, so to speak. That you're not creating a separate agency and appointing members and then letting them have the power of eminent domain. It will still be council that will have that power. And so I don't know that you're really opening the door to anything here, because again, if you were creating a separate agency and giving them that power, I think you probably would have serious concerns and reservations. But since it will still be council that is itself acting as the urban redevelopment agency, it will still always be up to council to decide when or when not to exercise eminent domain. Having said all that, I don't see any particular problem with adding the language that Mr. Goodman suggested. And just for clarification on the reason for this urban redevelopment plan, the focus of this, the reason for it, as I understand it, is more about how to convey property that the city already has, not to acquire additional property.
Okay, so it sounds like if we could, we can adopt Mr. Goodman's phraseology for passage of the motion.
I don't see any legal reason why you can't. It's ultimately, okay. I think, a policy decision, you all, whether you want to do it or not. But legally, I don't see any issue with doing that.
Okay. All right. So, council, you've heard the comments. You've heard the proposed motion. Does anyone else want to speak before we go to a motion, and then we can always speak about it after the second?
I'd like to hear Jim's phraseology again, or words he wants to put in there. Eminent domain is scary. It's a lot of reasons why you don't want to use eminent domain, but there are reasons and times that you need to use eminent domain to further a major project, or to build a utility, or to build a road. It just has to be a tool that is used very carefully. And with lots of concern that you're not taking something unfairly away from somebody or some people. So I'm interested to hear the wording again from Jim.
Mr. Goodman?
I'd be glad to accommodate you, Mr. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead, Mr. Mayor, if that was a go ahead. Fortunately, Mr. Kent, I did write it down, so here we go again. The subject, first of all, I would make a motion that says to approve item M, urban redevelopment plan resolution, subject to the restrictions and caveats regarding the use of this device in future acquisitions to condemn by eminent domain or by any other form or legal instrument of enforcement adherence for the purpose of transfer real estate to development entities. In other words, let's not let this be a stepping stone to doing other things other than what specifically we're intending to do with the mill property.
Right.
Does that satisfy it?
Yeah, and Mr. Horton, this is for the airport property, right?
That is correct, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure, Jim, if you're okay.
Yeah, so I'm sorry, I misspoke.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure.
I misspoke. Yeah, thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, Jim. We have a motion. Do I have a second?
That motion, man. I'll second.
All right. All right. I have a motion from Mr. Goodman, and I have a second from Mr. Jones. Now we can further discussion. All right. Well, thank you very much, Council. Good lively discussion, and I think recognition of concerns and our sensitivity in making sure we do it right. Thank you, everyone.
And I thank you, Mr. Mayor, for the respect.
Absolutely.
I just want to say I thank you and the council for the respect you just paid that. Thank you.
Okay. Madam Clerk, can you run the roster?
Yes, sir. Councilmember Jones, post 1.
Yay.
Councilmember Goodman, post 2.
I'm going to go with yay.
Councilmember Gant, post 3.
Yay.
Councilman Riley, post 4.
Yay.
Councilman Rassi, post 5.
Yay.
Councilman Williams, post 6.
Yay.
Mayor Morrissey.
Madam Clerk, that's unanimous. If you recall that and record that. Thank you very much, everyone. And that concludes the agenda items. And we're going to move down to Mr. Horton's report from the city manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First thing I want to talk about is something that's kind of near and dear to my heart. Some of you know, I know Mr. Goodman knows exactly what this week is, but it's National Fire Prevention Week. It's recognized each year by the National Fire Prevention Association, and the NFPA creates a theme around some leading causes of fire in the United States. This year's theme is Serve Up Fire Safety in the Kitchen. Kitchen fires have traditionally been one of the leading causes of fires in the United States for many, many years now. So that's a concentrated effort. You'll hear the fire department talking about that throughout. Fire Prevention Week came about in remembrance of the Great Chicago Fire, which started October 8th around 9 p.m. Miss O'Leary was blamed for it, or her cow was. That's a little bit of trivia, but that can be argued both ways. But it is also one of two of the notable configurations that happened at that same time. The other one was Peshtigo, Illinois, which also suffered an extreme fire loss on the same day at the same time. But it also, the first Sunday of October is also known as the National Fallen Firefighters Day, and the National Firefighters Memorial Service is held in recognition this year for the 48 firefighters that died in the line of duty in 2019. The actual service is not a full-blown week like it normally is. They did have a very private ceremony last evening. So if you saw the flags at half-staff yesterday, that was what it was in reference to. Moving on from there, the wastewater treatment plant and the water systems, we had a very professional transfer from Tyndall to Clearwater Solutions regarding the wastewater treatment plant and water system. Clearwater Solutions is working on a report to council. You've already seen a preliminary on the status of both systems, and they should be able to provide us with a full report in an upcoming council meeting. My apologies, I'm having trouble talking tonight. We are in the process of working on the request for proposals for the Orange Hall sprinkler system and the modifications to city buildings and the camera system, which those two are both CARES Act funded, but that should be ready for our next council meeting. The shrimp project, a lot of the parking spaces and a lot of the center line has been put down along St. Mary Street. There's still some more center lines that have to be put down, and there's some more parking spaces. The problem is we're dealing with weather now and visitors that come to the area, having to wait on them to move and the weather to be dry so we can get those parking spaces finished out. One of the last things we have left to do is the bollards that'll be going in front of the pavilion area and the grass area. But where those are still about 2 weeks out in shipment, there's been delays due to COVID and everything else. So that's on the go. We did have our first day of senior meal program today. It was a huge success. Everything went great. I've had nothing but good reports. With an approximately 70 seniors being served. 10 of them were delivered by volunteers, and the rest were picked up curbside at the community building. Again, that funding for this program is via the CARES Act until January the 1st. Mr. Mayor, that concludes my report this evening. We should have a whole bunch more for you at our next council meeting.
Thank you very much, sir. Great news. All right. This allows us to move back into granting audience to the public. And Madam Clerk, I think we have 2 citizens signed up for this, right? The first one is Mr. Smith.
Yes, sir.
All right, Mr. Smith, are you on?
He's got what he wants.
Mr. Smith? Mr. Smith? All right, Madam Clerk, why don't we go to Mr. Whitley? And then if Mr. Smith comes on, we can have him come after Mr. Whitley. Is Mr. Whitley on? Mr. Whitley? All right, Madam Clerk, we will run the calendar, and then if our citizens come on, then we can have them speak after calendar.
Yes, sir. On Wednesday, October 7th at 5 o'clock p.m. in the Main Street office, we have the Development Authority of St. Mary's meeting. On Thursday, October 8th at 9:30 a.m., we currently have the Orange Hall Management Committee meeting in Council Chambers. At 5 o'clock p.m., we have the St. Mary's Intracoastal Gateway meeting in the Main Street office. And at 6 o'clock p.m., we will have the Hospital Authority meeting in Council Chambers. On Monday, October 12th at 8:30 a.m. in the Main Street office, we'll have the Downtown Development Authority meeting. On Tuesday, October 13th at 6 o'clock p.m., the Stormwater Enterprise Committee meeting has canceled that meeting. Again, they have canceled their meetings. All their future meetings for October, November, and December due to the pandemic. On Friday, October 16th at 9 o'clock a.m. in Council Chambers, we have St. Mary's Municipal Court trials, followed by the 11 o'clock a.m. St. Mary's Municipal Court plea and arraignments. On Monday, October 19th at 5 o'clock p.m., we have the 4th quarter master plan update, followed by the 6 o'clock city council meeting.
Yeah, Madam Clerk, my copy of the calendar didn't have the city council meeting for the 19th on it. I know that's just will end up on there, just an observation.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you very much. And just one more time before we proceed on to council comments, again, Mr. Smith or Mr. Whitley, are you on? Okay, why don't we run down the roster, Mr. Jones, on the council comments?
Thank you, Mayor. Just wanted to ask everyone to remain vigilant in this epidemic, and we have over 210,000 people that have died in the United States, and remember that the virus is for real. I want to give my compliments to all of those on the Planning and Zoning Board, and a special compliment to our chief. I think that they're getting ready to start a little program, BTB, Back the Blue. I think that this will be a step in trying to bring unity in the community, and hopefully it'll reach out to everybody else, and we can bring more stability and more unity in the United States. So, Chief, I'd like to be the first one to volunteer to help in this effort in the next couple of weeks, I think it's supposed to be. And if there's anything that I can do, feel free to give me a call. And thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. How about Mr. Goodman?
I just wanted to echo what I already said about, remaining vigilant in the community. And I want to say to Mr. Ken Hughes, his apology about a misprint on the resolution packaging for the sidewalk thing. Are you there, Ken?
Yes, this
sir.
is Whitley.
I want to say to Mr. Ken Hughes,
Whitley is here.
his apology about
Okay, Mr. Whitley, please mute.
Resolution packaging.
Okay.
Okay, Ken, it's your first mistake you've ever made in your whole life, probably. and it's fine. Thank you for fessing up to it. And that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, okay.
I'll get you my mother's number, Mr. Goodman.
All right. So, Mr. Gant.
Only just wear your mask, and wear your mask. That's all I've got.
All right. Thank you. All right. And so, Mr. Riley.
Yes, sir. Thank you. And I'd like to also echo the comments of Mr. Jones and Mr. Goodman regarding the being on alert and doing everything you can to avoid this terrible pandemic that we're in the midst of. And the second thing, very short, the GOSP, the Georgia Outdoor Stewardship Program grant request for about 1.4 mil was submitted this past Friday, and if successful, it'll complete will complete the northern 4 miles of the Tabby Trail from the ruins to Crooked River State Park. I personally want to thank the St. Mary's staff people, Bobby Marr, Leanne Sutton, and Trina Berner, and Camden Bicycle Club President Jim Potter, Camden Bicycle Shop owner Terry Landreth, and Julia Hagler. One of the best things we did was to get her on contract with us. She wrote the grant and did an expert job, and all of the people that participated in putting that grant together did an expert and intense work to make it successful. And also want to thank the about 25 people that provided letters of support that go a long way in convincing DNR that this is a worthwhile grant to award. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Mr. Rassi.
Yes, I'd like to echo what Artie and Jim Goodman and Mr. Jim Gant and Dave Riley shared. I don't need to expound on that any further than that. But Artie, I was kind of surprised you didn't mention the Wildcats. And Camden County Wildcats are off to a great start this year. They're 4-1. They have homecoming parade Thursday in Kingsland, and then they got the big game against Coffee County Friday night. And I appreciate everyone doing their part in our city staff to keep us all safe and when we come into the offices. And Robbie, you've done a great job for our city as city manager.
Yes, ma'am, sir. Thank you. And how about Ms.
I just wanted to tell Mr.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, ma'am.
I just say to reiterate what all my fellow council members have said, that this virus is not a joke and it's not political. It's real. I try every day, or at least every other day, to post the latest statistics for Camden County on my Facebook page, make it public so that anybody can see it. And today, the sad news came through that we have 3 more deaths in Camden County, bringing us up to 16 deaths in Camden County. This virus is not going away anytime soon, and now the situation is exacerbated because of the flu. So we all need to be on top of this problem and do everything we can to keep it from spreading. The other announcement I had was that the health department, the Georgia Health Department, is offering free mammograms. This is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and they're offering free mammograms for people that qualify. And I've posted it on my Facebook page. I hope that some people that otherwise might not get a mammogram would take advantage of this. These are 2 important health issues in our community. Thanks.
All right. No, thank you very much for bringing that one up, ma'am. Okay. And so this is the mayor. I just want to say that we're starting to see scarecrows built on the medians from the elementary school to the waterfront. It's pretty exciting. And to Mr. Riley, I was the recipient of many of those letters and the Herculean effort that you went to get significantly placed people throughout Georgia to contribute letters of support. That was quite a bit of work that you did, and we're very grateful for that. To Linda and the mammogram exhortation, thank you very much. And Robbie, maybe we should make sure that that's on the city website. I think I may have sent it to you, but I can do that also. And
yes, sir. We'll take care of that.
Thank you. And for the flu shot, I got my flu shot scheduled for Monday the 12th. And as part of the ongoing health regimen, I hope you'll all make sure you take advantage of that. And just to finally, to talk about COVID just a little bit differently, talking about the impacts of COVID in insidious ways. So if you go to get some of the spray cleaning products in the grocery stores that help with the general sanitation of your kitchen and your bath, you're going to find, as I did in the last 2 days, a lot of the products are not in stock, and it's due to supply chain problems with COVID. It was pretty interesting, and I was really, I think, taken aback by just how real it can be and how close in it can be. So just an observation that's very different from, let alone the health impacts that Linda has spoken about. So thank you all. And so before we go into executive session, I think we wanted to check back with our citizens. Mr. Whitley, you are here on the line?
Yes, sir, I'm still here.
Okay, so as we had said in the past, if you would respect, we have a 5-minute time limit if you would like to speak. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. I think I heard earlier on the YouTube that there was a vote that passed the conversion, but there's many things that are being overlooked, and one of your female council members that said that more investigations should be done is valid. The Mr. Smith has not come forward truthfully to the city planning committee or to you guys, but the fire scenario is real. The fact that one more ordinance, one more cease and desist that he violated included that after the final do not do any further work, myself, I was able to take pictures and forward them in an email, which you guys have a copy of, showing that he put 2 more sailboats in a far corner, really, really close to the Wright Street fence line. If you look at that in the picture, even after the final cease and desist that almost got one of the contractors put in jail, he went ahead and moved more boats. He doesn't care. He's going to do what he wants to do to help his business go, and his customers are intimidated because if they say anything to him or about him or complain, they may get booted out of the yard, and the next nearest place where you can work on your own boat or store your own boat is either 500 miles south or 500 miles north. He has everybody in a clinch. With that said, I mean, more investigation needs to be done as to the validity of the person, not just the property, because the business itself is going to devalue the adjacent properties on Wright Street, because by the time he's got 700 boats in there instead of 150, it's not going to be, they're going to lose value, and they'll be at the mercy of Rocky Smith. He's already told them he would buy their properties and then tear them down and make boat storage. They are dismayed. I think it's sad, and he's actually more of a detriment than meets the eye. More investigation is needed. The culvert and bridge that he did across the creek, totally in violation without DNR approval. I was told last that he needed to pull that out and make it go back to original compliance of creek, and then apply for a permit, and then put a possible bridge But he did it incorrectly, and if the way it's been approved at this point, I'll bet you that tomorrow morning he'll start moving boats. With that said, he is not going to comply, and that's the end of my story.
All right, sorry. Thank you for your patience in waiting for us. We appreciate that very much. And council, Mr. Horton and Mr. Blackerby, and I'm not sure however many of staff, we need to go into executive session, and I need a motion to go into executive session.
So moved. Alan Ramsey.
Yes, and by the way, it's for real estate, just to be clear. Okay. Mr. Rassi, and I have a second from
Riley, second.
All right, Madam Clerk, will you run the roster?
Yes, sir. Councilmember Jones, post 1.
Yay.
Councilmember Goodman, post 2.
Yay.
Councilmember Gant, post 3.
Yay.
Councilmember Riley, post 4.
Yay.
Councilmember Rassi, post 5.
Yay.
Councilmember Williams, post 6.
Yay.
Mayor Morrissey.
All right, Madam Clerk, if you record that as unanimous, and now council, we need to adjourn to executive session, and I think everyone has the connection. We will see you on the WebEx meeting in very shortly. Thank you. And for our citizens online, Madam Clerk maintains the line open, and once executive session is complete, which we don't know how long it will last, then we will come back into regular session to close out our meeting. Thank you, everyone, and council, I'll talk to you shortly.
St. Mary's City Council is currently in executive session. Please stay tuned.
Goodman is back on.
Yes, sir.
Rassey's back on.
Yes, sir.
Williams on.
Yes,
Riley
ma'am.
on.
I'm on again.
Riley on.
Jones on. Mr. Gant.
Yes.
All right,
That's all right. I'll talk to you about it later.
okay, yes. All right, we've got Mr. Gant and Mr. Jones. Anyone else on yet?
Goodman.
Williams.
Riley.
Rassey.
Ms. Williams, Mr. Riley, Mr. Rassey, and Mr. Goodman?
Yes, sir.
Oh, good. Excellent. Okay, so we have council on. Mr. Horton?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Okay, and Madam Clerk?
Yes, sir.
Oh, good. Okay, and all right, I think that's, Mr. Blackerby.
Here.
Great. Okay. All right. Council, may I have a motion to come back into regular city council session?
So moved, Mayor.
That was Mr. Jones.
Yes, sir.
Second,
And a
Riley.
second from Mr. Riley. Madam Clerk, can you go down the roster, please?
Yes, sir. Councilmember Jones, post 1.
Here.
Councilmember Goodman, post 2.
Present.
Councilmember Gant, post 3.
Present.
Councilmember Riley, post 4.
Present.
Councilmember Rassey, post 5.
Present.
Councilmember Williams, post 6.
Yay.
Mayor Morrissey.
Madam Clerk, will you record that as unanimous, please? Thank you very much. Okay, Mr. Rassey, you have a motion for council to consider.
Yes, sir. Motion to approve the contract for the exchange of real property with the Development Authority of St. Mary's. Under the contract, the city will convey approximately 6.21 acres of property located at 310 East Weed Street. In exchange, the Development Authority of St. Mary's will convey to the city parcels numbers 148-031 JJ, 148-031 KK, and 148-01 LL. That's my motion.
Thank you, sir. And I have a second.
Second,
I think that
Williams.
was Mrs. Williams. Any discussion? All right, Madam Clerk, will you run the roster?
Yes, sir. Councilmember Jones, post 1.
Yay.
Councilmember Goodman, post 2.
Yay.
Councilmember Gant, post 3.
Yay.
Councilmember Riley, post 4.
As a citizen member of the Development Authority of St. Mary's, I abstain.
Councilmember Rassey, post 5.
Yay.
Councilmember Williams, post 6.
Yay.
Mayor Morrissey.
Madam Clerk, will you record that as 5 yeas, no nays, and 1 abstention?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let me just mark. Okay. All right, Council, that being said, I want to thank everyone for a very productive meeting today. Much was accomplished for city business, and we're moving ahead, and it's very exciting. So unless anyone has any further comments, I'd like a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Mr. Jones. All right, Madam Clerk, you run the roster.
Yes, sir.
Third.
Councilmember Jones, post 1.
Yay.
Councilmember Goodman, post 2.
Yay.
Councilmember Gant, post 3.
Yay.
Councilman Riley, post 4.
Yay.
Councilman Rassi, post 5.
Yay.
Councilman Williams, post 6.
Yay.
Mayor Morrissey.
Madam Clerk, will you record that as unanimous? And thank you for all the citizens who may have stayed on till the end of our council meeting for October 5th for the city of St. Mary. And thank you very much, council, for a really productive meeting. I appreciate it. Have a great evening. Be careful and be safe.
Good evening.
Bye.
Have a good evening.